Welcome to the Resume Storyteller, bringing you interviews with industry experts, regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land you job interviews. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hi guys, I am so excited to have with me today career switch coach Dr. Dawn Graham. She is a coach, a TEDx speaker, a LinkedIn learning instructor, and host of the popular call-in show Dr. Dawn on Careers on SIRIUSXM radio. She's also a regular contributor to Forbes.com's leadership channel, and by day is the career director for the executive MBA program at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Her book, Switchers, How Smart Professionals Change Career and Seize Success, is one of my favorites. It is a must read for anyone who is contemplating a career change, but it combines her experience as a coach, a licensed psychologist, and a former corporate recruiter to give career switchers the strategies to break through obstacles and land the kinds of roles that they want. So Dawn, thank you so much for joining me.
It's great to speak with you again, Virginia.
So you and I got to know each other a couple years back when you were the keynote speaker at the National Resume Writers Association. But what I'm not clear on is, how did you pivot into this arena? Tell me about how that all came about.
Yeah, so my pivot into career management happened about 20 years ago when I actually got laid off. Many remember the Enron Arthur Andersen scandal.
Yes. Oh, were you with Arthur Andersen at the time?
I was.
Aww.
And, life was going well. I just finished my master's degree. I just gotten a promotion, and I was actually moving cross country to a different office when all of this exploded, and, talk about the rug being pulled out from under you. At the time I, was a young professional, and I didn't, I had done recruiting, so I knew a little bit about that side of it, but it was very much a mad dash to apply online and to try and get a job, because all of a sudden you're out of work. And of course there was no severance because of the circumstances.
I knew lots of people that had been that. I mean, Arthur Andersen ceased to exist. That's when they rebranded to Accenture. So.
And it was crazy, Virginia. It was people were carrying out, chairs and coffee pots.
That's right.
They didn't collect your laptops or anything. I mean, it was
it was archaic. Yeah. It was crazy. Yes.
But what I realized quickly after, as I'm applying online frantically, getting no bites, of course. And this was even when online was actually, a better shot.
That's right.
So this was a while ago. But, I realized that not only was this not working, but all of my network, my entire, I'd built up some really good relationships in the firm, but they were all in the same position I was in. So I didn't have that external network. And I also had a company on my resume that was poorly branded in the market, because people just assumed you were part of the scandal. And I can't even tell you how many times I get asked in an interview, did you shred things? And I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
But it really formed my view of what I talk about today in my book Switchers, and what I'll share now, which is that if these situations happen, clearly we're in the middle of a very unique situation right now. And getting laid off or experiencing a merger acquisition, now a pandemic, is something that's par for the course. So if you want to bulletproof your career, then you have to do three things: constantly reinvent yourself and your skills. So stay up to date with what's going on in the market, learn new technology, and always look at what the market is looking for, so you can rebrand yourself. And that's the second one, is really to have a visible brand. People need to know what you are an expert at. People need to know what problems you solve. And then the third one, of course, is build a broad and diverse network. Because if you have these three things and you're continuously managing your career, watching these three things, kind of balancing them, I think regardless of what happens in the market, or regardless of what happens in your specific company, you're going to have a great head start on your next position. So that's how I started, and I have spent the last 20 years basically preaching that message, because I was devastated to find myself in that position. And I don't want others to feel like I felt during that time. And so I'm constantly trying to help people get ahead of it.
I mean, you're right. There is no better safety net than investing in yourself by growing your network and making sure that there is proof all over the place of that you are who you say you are and you can do what you say you can do. Absolutely agree. So you've been preaching to career changers for many, many years now, and probably even more right now. Tell me about a couple of common challenges that you see facing people that are trying to make a pivot right now.
So I think that there are two. One has to do with ourselves kind of getting in our own way, and the other is more external. But I do think that it's a scary time. I think humans don't like ambiguity, and we're starting to realize that we're not going to have a career that looks like it does today come next year or the year after, and that's pretty scary stuff, especially for people who have built up an expertise in an area and have kind of really meshed their identity with their profession. And so I think in part, we need to start separating ourselves from titles or from companies and start looking at ourselves more holistically and at the value we bring to the market, which is complex and encompasses everything we've done. We can't just look at ourselves as what we're doing now. We have to look at all of our experiences, our accomplishments, our achievements.
So sort of that whole 360 view.
Exactly. Very well said. And we have to start looking at ourselves and introducing ourselves that way and say, what problems do I want to solve in the market, and what skills do I have, not just from my current job, but from everything. And I also think we need to stop tying our value to being employed and having a paycheck, because I think that's something that's very prevalent. And just if you lose your job or you get laid off or furloughed, that doesn't shift your value. You still have all of those skills and strengths and expertise. So I think we need to kind of keep that confidence in ourselves when things like this happen.
Absolutely.
The second thing I would say is the market. Obviously, it's a tough market. Industries are going away. New industries are emerging. And it's confusing for people who maybe, have been in one industry all of their life. So, I mean, I think this exploration can be hard. And what we know is a lot of people are going to have to make career pivots and switches because of what's happening in their industries. And unfortunately, the hiring process hasn't caught up to that. While there certainly are more and more people making career changes, a lot of the systems that we use in recruiting, like applicant tracking systems or just, old ways of hiring, look for matches and haven't really gotten to the point where they are looking at transferable skills. And so it is up to the job seeker to rebrand themselves as the solution to a hirer's problem. And that's something that a lot of people don't know how to do. And I know that's one of the hallmarks of your work, Virginia, is helping people put those stories together that relate to the hiring team.
Well, and I always remember what you spoke to us about at that conference is that the hiring systems have not caught up. They're looking for matching first, differentiation second. So you've got to show how you're a match before someone will open their mind to considering you for something different if you come from a different background.
It's so true. Match first, stand out second.
I love that. Yep.
We have to do that.
What would you say? So we've talked about the challenges that people are facing. Is there something that you find that your clients are surprised by, especially those people that really haven't had a job search in quite some time and the rug was literally pulled out from under them? What has caught them off guard?
Yeah, I think they are surprised at how dismal the results of an online search are. I think a lot of people, and when online came out in late 90s, and it wasn't as saturated as it is today. And so, if that's the last time you were in a job search, or you really don't have any, training in this, which a lot of people don't.
It's not an intuitive learned skill.
Right. You go to what you know, which is applying online, and you believe that all the openings are online when we know that fewer than half are actually online, and you have 100% of the market competing for 30%, 40% of the jobs that are out there and not engaging their network and getting dismal results. And it can be really demoralizing because you think, wow, I have some great skills, I've done some great things, but nobody is calling me. So that, I think, is very frustrating for people who maybe haven't been engaged in a job search. And I do recommend to those individuals, if you haven't been engaged in a job search, join a group online or get a coach or something. And I know it's difficult to invest when you are in a position where you're trying to save money, but
Sure.
I do believe that if it's been a long time or you're not getting bites, that a coach or some type of training can really help you. And sometimes it's just some small tweaks in your process that can really open new doors.
Absolutely. And there are people hosting free webinars and live Q&As on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like on a weekly basis right now. So there is lots of free advice that is available to people. And then you can form virtual support groups just from the people that are attending those.
Exactly.
So that support is really helpful because it is it's a journey that's filled with ups and downs for many. And so having that support is so helpful.
Yeah. And I think we get, a little bit, embarrassed to ask for help because we've been laid off, but I'm here to say I've been laid off twice. And if you're a professional in a working situation for any length of time, it's likely you're going to leave the company.
Exactly. It's not if, it's when. And to your point, your value should not be tied to having that job or that paycheck. We need to try to get into that mindset.
Exactly.
No, agree. So tell me, when someone comes to you and they are in the beginning stages of starting to think about making a career move, how do you recommend they get started?
So if somebody's starting a new job search, I think one of the most important things to do that a lot of people skip is that self-reflection stage.
Yeah.
Because what people tend to do is hop online and start to see jobs and everything. Especially if you're without a job right now, or you're just terribly bored or in a toxic environment, everything's going to look great online.
Right. Let me just, throw spaghetti against the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah. And so I think if you hold off on that and do some reflection about your values, or do some reflection around what did I really love about my job, even if it was only 5% of my last job, what was that, and who is there, and who was I working with, and what type of projects, and what am I have a lot of skills, which ones do I really love using, and which ones am I good at but burn me out and I don't want to use. So I think if you could do that and make yourself a list, that way when you do go do your research, whether you just look at jobs online or talk to your network, you have something to overlay that information.
To help guide your research.
So true. You're not chasing shiny objects. And, that looks great. That looks great. You're actually being true to yourself, because I always say it's best to run to a new job, not from an old job. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people start the process with the running from. They know they don't want to do what they're doing anymore, but they're not quite sure what they want to do. And then it actually ends up making your job search take more time.
Absolutely. Or the people that land find that they have jumped out of the frying pan into the fire.
Exactly.
So what about the person we talked about the person that is thinking about making a career move. What about the person that started that search probably without self-reflection, without a plan or a target? What advice do you have, when they've started and it is not going well? How do you have them regroup?
Yeah, and this is a challenge, because I know a lot of people are feeling this right now. And I think, one, you have to step back and address any emotions. I'm a licensed psychologist, so I always add this piece in, because a lot of times there's underlying emotions, and the job search just really taps into those.
It does. It brings them to the surface.
It really does. So I think you have to address those and, figure out, what's getting in my way. Maybe you have the messages in your head, I'm not good enough, or all of these messages that we tell ourselves that are negative, or maybe you're really upset about how your last job ended and you're kind of carrying that chip with you. But I think you have to come to terms with that, because unfortunately we bring that into interviews and networking, and people sense it. And when they sense that, they sense a red flag, and they're not quite sure what it is, I think it gets in the way of them.
Yeah, it's another obstacle to your success.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's first and foremost. And then secondly, I think people have to have a conversation. The topic of my TEDx was your next job is one conversation away. And I think we really overlook the people in our lives that we see on a regular basis or interact with. And I know a lot of people are not interacting in the same way, but you still have those connections in your family and your friends and your neighbors and maybe some community groups you belong to. And I think if we just told those people our goal in a very clear and specific way, say, I'm really looking to engage my programming skills to a mid-sized company in this geography, you'll be surprised at how many people in your network, in your current network, have connections to either that company or somebody who's in that field or somebody who can give you advice. And I think we often don't do that. We often overlook the people closest to us because we think, well, if they had a job, they'd give it to us. And of course they don't have a job, but they have their own social circles. They have their own networks. They have their own information sources. And if they knew what we were looking for, I truly believe wholeheartedly that they would have some type of advice or tip or lead to give you. And if not that day, then maybe a week later they stumble across it and remember that conversation and give it back to you. But I think we are a little bit gun shy about talking to our current people in our current lives, because we just don't talk about work in that way with people. We talk about,
and you don't want to feel like you're just asking them to give you a job. So I think the point that you made is a wise one, that you're not saying, hey, do you know anyone who's hiring? You're saying, here's what I'm good at and the problems I solve. And here are the kinds of people that I think could benefit from it. Mm-hmm. Do you know anyone like that?
Exactly. Or do you know anyone at this company? It's a company I'm targeting. Or do you know anybody who or used to work there? I mean, I know a lot of people, even from my Arthur Andersen days. A lot of us have kept in touch.
Yeah.
And so we often know people from past jobs. So even if somebody worked there previously, they probably have some contacts they can give you. And I just don't think we consider those people in our lives who are closest to us. But think about it. They trust you, they want to see you succeed, and they're very willing to help you. So if you just have an open conversation, it's going to be life-changing. I can pretty much guarantee it, because I've done it myself. I've done it, I've talked to people like very close to me, like my brother, who has given me a lead to something. And I'm thinking, I thought we would probably know a lot of the same people, but you just don't know with social media and how connected people are.
That's right. Yep. Our circles overlap, but there's so much of an area where they don't, that is to your advantage. No, I agree. So what about those people that are looking to make a change or a switch, and they can go in a lot of different directions. They have amassed a diverse skill set, and they're like, I think I'd like to do this, or maybe I'd like to do that, or maybe I'd like to do this. How do you recommend that they go after all those opportunities, or select, what are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts on that are pretty kind of, they're strict. I'll just say, some people always call this out in my book, but I think you have to have a very clear plan A. I think you have to have a very clear target. And if you go into this process saying I'm industry agnostic, think about what you're saying, because you're talking to people who maybe have been in industry for years and have really loved that industry, and don't want to hear you're industry agnostic. They want to hear you're excited, enthusiastic about a particular industry. Nobody wants to hear I'll work anywhere or I'll take any job in IT, because essentially what that's communicating is that you haven't done your homework. You haven't invested in yourself to figure out what your greatest strengths are and how you want to use those strengths to improve the market, and you're asking them to do the hard work for you. And I think you're going to get much less in terms of advice and people connecting with you if that's your stance. And people are so afraid, well, if I narrow it down too much, I'm going to miss opportunities. Yeah. But I disagree. I think it's the exact opposite. If you go broad, people don't know how to help you. People don't understand what you're looking for, and you don't give them anything to anchor to. So I think you have to go narrow, and you have to say, I've done my soul searching. These are my strengths. Here's how I can solve problems for this particular audience. And, here's how you might be able to help me. And I think when you do that, people respect that you've done your homework. People see you as confident. People see you as organized, and they want to help you. They'll be willing to spend their social capital on you. If you come to them and say, I'll do anything or I'll take anything, then I would hesitate to spend my social capital on you, because I don't think you've done the heavy lifting on your end. Yet you want somebody else to do that, to do more work than you're willing to do. So I think you have to go narrow. I think you have to be specific. I think that putting every skill you've ever done on your resume will confuse a hiring manager, and they will not be able to see where you fit. A lot of people think the hiring manager is going to do that work and say, well, this person could do this and that and this. They're not going to think that.
That's right. You have to connect the dots for them. So you're saying you have to pick. You don't get to have 7 different options. You need to pick.
Yeah, you need to pick.
Yeah,
you do.
So do you feel like, and I'm just trying to think through some of my clients, when you say switching industries, I do feel like there's some, not a ton, but a handful of job functions where you can be industry agnostic. Like I'm thinking cybersecurity is one, where the industry doesn't matter as much. But otherwise, you're right. You have to show that it's transferable, and you have to, at least, even if you are open to lots of different industries, you can't convey that. You need to sort of go have a plan A in mind for where you'd like to go, and maybe that plan A is based on this is the industry that's hiring more.
Well, and I do agree with you that the lines are getting muddier and muddier as we go, because industries are going hybrid and they're merging, and right. The lines are getting blurred, and that is 100% a fact. But even when somebody says cybersecurity, and I start to ask, well, would you want to do that in a nonprofit, or would you want to do that in a hospital setting? You start asking people questions, and they no, not there. Well, no, not there.
Yeah, and so you're right, and so you need to have that clarity, because otherwise, you don't want the other person to have to be pinpointing for you.
Yeah,
what your desired role is.
So usually, maybe you're open to more than one industry, and that's okay. But you're not open to any industry for sure. So maybe you target it towards, something you have a passion about. Because again, I think people want individuals who have some type of commitment to the industry. So maybe you do have you have a background that in healthcare, and so you have a special knowledge about that, and so that's at the top of your list. Or maybe you have really a deep interest in retail, and so you're looking at retail. I think everybody does have at least, one or two interests that
that's
they can
true.
Put the top of it. Now, because the lines are getting blurred, a lot of times it's not, one industry has peripheral industries that sort of feed into it, whether they're vendors or contractors. So I do think those peripheral industries make a lot of sense too when you're sharing your message. But I think when you start to go, I will work at a 10-person startup.
Yeah, or Fortune 500, right, yeah.
Very different. Even
that's a very good point.
World,
you're right. Different. No, that's a really good point. I agree. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite questions. What drives you absolutely nuts when it comes to job seeker mishaps? What errors do you see people making over and over again that you just wish you could shake people?
Yeah, so I certainly have some, because I work with a lot of job seekers, but I will tell you what irks me even more these days, Virginia, is employers. I will tell you that it irks me that they don't invest in a job description, for example. They don't invest in making it tied to performance measures. They throw a lot of fancy words in there, or generic words like creative and innovative and self-starter. I was like, well, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
It also irks me that companies ghost people. It irks me that when you get an internal promotion at a company, they put a cap on what you can earn because they have internal rules. And so they end up losing great talent and spending way more to hire somebody.
I know. And it is sad that that seems like the best way to get more money is to jump companies nowadays.
It really is. There's a lot of research on that. And to this day, I bang my head against the wall saying, what is an extra $10,000, which would be life-changing to this employee? And they already manage a $6 million budget. So when you look at
I know. Yeah, it would certainly promote loyalty. It's baffling, right?
So yeah, and I'm seeing this a lot because I'm actually seeing a lot of people moving around internally in their companies as their companies sort of shift strategies with the pandemic. And yeah, these things irk me. Ghosting candidates when they've invested a lot of time. And so, I get why job seekers are frustrated.
Yeah.
It's a hard enough process to be in to start with because there's a vulnerability there. And then for all of these other things to happen, it drives me crazy.
The job postings drive me crazy. And I think just because a lot of people rating isn't their talent. And I saw one posting the other day where my client sent it to me and I read it and I said, honestly, I don't understand what this role is. Mm-hmm. And I called someone else who worked for this company and she's like, I don't get it either. Like it was nonsensical.
It's so true. They use jargon that people don't understand. Like, you will be the PTW.
And as many job postings I've seen, I don't have a blinking idea of what this is. And it made me think they must want an intern. They must be hiring someone internal, and they had to post it, so they're putting it out there so that no one will apply. That was the only thing I could think of.
And that one irks me too, Virginia. You bring up a lot of my pet peeves when it happens so much and candidates don't know it. And I want to know this. A lot of what you see online already has a designated internal candidate.
Posting for posting's sake.
Irks me. Yeah. No. Now you're really telling me.
That really drives me crazy. And you can tell because I feel like when they use a ton more industry or internal lingo, they're getting for an internal candidate.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, we talk a lot, or there's been a lot of stuff in the media, but it's always been prevalent. Discussions around discrimination when it comes to hiring practices, ageism, sexism, racism. What are your thoughts on the topic, or not on the topic, but on helping people to navigate these barriers to entry?
Yeah, these are all true. These systemic biases are prevalent. I know a lot of people are coming up against them. And the challenge is they are hard to prove and they are hard to fight. So one of the things I'm a silver lining of this year is I think a lot of these issues are being raised to the forefront, and a lot of companies are investing in diversity and inclusion, even creating positions. And I'm very hopeful that's not just a quick response to make, for optics, but I hope that they actually will be looking at their hiring processes, how they make decisions, and moving forward in a way that is more equitable. Because right now we know, there's a lot of statistics out there, especially, when you look at even just furloughs and who's being brought back and who's not being brought back. And it's challenging because if you do the math, you can see the bias, but it's, again, really difficult for companies have big lawyers and people don't. That's right.
And it is so hard to look. The rules are on the book. The laws are on the books. The stuff is illegal, but it is hard to prove. It's expensive to fight.
So I would tell people, if you're experiencing this, that, Yes, I think we all need to do our part in changing the system. But one of the things that I have a whole chapter in my book called "It's Not Fair," because there's so much about the hiring process that is biased. It's not at all linear. It doesn't make sense in a lot of ways when you dissect it. And this is the hiring process, and it's been that way for a long time. And I know that a lot of companies are trying to use technology to make changes, and hopefully that will. But even the technology has been shown. There's
no bulletproof system.
There really isn't. So I think you need to take it into your own hands and say, how can I find the side door? How can I go around these processes? How can I get, don't apply through the applicant tracking system, because again, that's programmed by a human who is biased, because by nature we're biased. So, use your network. That's one of the greatest things you can do is get a referral, get a trusted referral, skip the online, or at least minimize it, and start to connect with companies who are hiring, the companies that are booming right now, because a lot of jobs don't get posted. They get filled before they get posted. So go that route. I tell people, if you're struggling, think about a boomerang career, which is going back to a company you've worked for previously, where you have knowledge and maybe even still connections. And, maybe a specific program or technology that they use that would be really helpful right now, even if you just did it for a short time. So I think you have to really think about what everybody else is doing and do the opposite.
That's really good advice. You're right, and because applying online, as we've seen, doesn't work, and it certainly should not be the first point of entry. I've never thought of a boomerang career. Do you think
it's a popular thing, and I think a lot of people don't think about it because you think, I've already worked there, but that's a great reason why they would want to hire you, because the people, the systems, how to get things done there.
Do you feel like if people were to have a shot at applying online, do you feel like having a past experience with that company helps you? Does it give you a leg up from an ATS perspective, or not necessarily?
Well, I think it depends on how you left that company.
That's true. Yeah.
So there's that, but which is why I say never burn your bridges, because you never know. And but I do think if you've worked for a company, then you probably still know people.
That's true.
In that company, and I would say even if you're applying online, find somebody in that company. It doesn't even have to be in the same department or even the same office. Just, see if you have somebody, if not in your first level contacts, in your second level contacts, who can shepherd your resume. Even just saying, hey, my friend applied to this position, can get your resume, taken out of the ATS.
Out of the pile and onto a desk.
I will tell you, when I was a recruiter, anytime somebody in the company, didn't matter who they were or if I even knew them, you said, a friend of mine applied, I think it's worth looking at, I would look at them.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely look at them, because there's a lot of good research on referrals and their success in the company. So,
well, yeah, it gives you a comfort level. People,
it really does.
People want someone to vouch for them. Absolutely. So what would you, if you had to boil it down, what are sort of one or two tools that a career switcher absolutely cannot be without in today's day and age? And you probably actually now in hindsight addressed that at the very beginning. What are tools that they absolutely need to embark on a career journey?
So I would say a tool that absolutely you have to have is LinkedIn, and you have to have a presence. I know there's a lot of back and forth around social media and privacy, but LinkedIn, in my opinion, if you are a working professional and you do not have a current LinkedIn profile and you are not active, meaning that you don't just slap up a profile.
It's not just a static profile, yeah.
Then you're missing a big opportunity, because what we know is passive hiring is growing, and passive hiring means recruiters doing LinkedIn searches and finding people and reaching out to them. So again, you're missing an opportunity perhaps that you didn't even know was there because you're not online, or your profile is very historical and it's not at all aspirational, or you didn't complete it, or you only have 65 contacts.
Right.
So that's an easy thing to do. And I think, look at other people's profiles who are doing the jobs you want. Get some information from what you're seeing online from other people, because I think that is, and LinkedIn, like you said, they have a lot of free courses and things like that too on how to create a great profile. So I think that to me is number one.
Your point about searches, look, people don't care if you're seeking or not. They want the best candidate, not the best job seeker. Mm-hmm. So having a good profile just makes you open for opportunities that you might not have even known existed.
That's right.
So that's tool number 2. Tool number 1? Did you have a second tool?
Well, I think there are a lot of tools. Obviously, you need a great resume, even though I think your network should come first.
Okay.
And of course, you need to understand how you introduce yourself. So there's a lot of things, but I think if you create that great LinkedIn profile, a lot of those other things flow from
You're
that.
right.
So,
you're right, because you can take that, what you put in your about section for your pitch, you can help to grow your network. It does it. So you sort of feel like LinkedIn is that foundational document.
Absolutely. Okay.
So to close things out, at the beginning of the podcast, I listed your 7 different titles that you have right now: podcast coach, TEDx speaker. What is next for you? Do you have any room for anything new right now?
So, the book Switchers came out 2 years ago, and I think it was fortuitous in a way, because it I look at my tagline is switchers are the future of work, and we're seeing a lot more about the future of work and how things are changing and how to upskill and reskill and get people ready for new jobs or different industries. And I think this is going to be a regular part of all of our careers now. It's not enough to just go to school for 4 years or whatever it is, and then that education is going to last for the rest of your career. Things are shifting, and the pandemic has accelerated that change. So we are going to see a lot more people become switchers. And in fact, I think everybody's going to be a switcher at some point. So I'm doing a lot of writing, and we're going to have a special on the SiriusXM radio show around switchers or the future of work. And a lot of people talking about how big companies are incorporating now education. You've probably seen Google is creating new certificates, and Amazon has an internal IBM has an internal, they're trying to teach people these skills that they need. And of course, there's a lot of universities who are creating competency-based learning. And
that's what I'm going through. My last youngest kids are now considering college, and it's the first time I'm hearing about life skills, not just knowledge anymore, to help them apply all of their learnings to the real world. It's been fascinating.
It really is. So I'm doing a lot of work around bringing that information to people and research to people in digestible ways so they can start to prepare, because even if it hasn't impacted your industry yet, it will. And back to my original story, I want people to get ahead of it. So that's a lot of the work you're going to see coming from me.
That is exciting. So if people want to follow you, I've included your LinkedIn, your podcast link, and then a link to your book. The SiriusXM channel, is it still channel 132?
It is.
Okay, very good. Is there any other place that you would like to mention in terms of people wanting to reach out to you?
Yeah, definitely. LinkedIn is a great place to follow me or send me a personalized message. And I also am pretty active on Twitter. If you're a Twitter user, at Dr. Dawn Graham. So that's a great place as well.
Perfect. Dawn, thank you so much. Your advice it just makes so much sense to me. But what I love is that you make what is an intimidating topic feel manageable. You've broken it down into manageable tasks, I think.
Well, thank you. And I always love talking with you, Virginia.
Same.
I know we share very similar philosophies on this. So
absolutely. Music to my ears. Thank you.
You've been listening to The Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's online SCM hiring and decision makers, please visit www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.